Claire Clark, and I'm going to show you a masterclass in choux pastry. This is a basic fundamental part of pastry for any pastry chef or any pastry department. I'm going to be showing you how to make petit polka, which is a classic chantilly filled choux ring, a chocolate eclair and a religious. So we're going to add the milk and water to the pan, in with the butter and onto the stove. While that's boiling, we're going to sieve the flour. Sieving aerates the flour as well as removes any lumps. We're then going to add our salt and sugar to the flour and the rest of the dry ingredients. As your milk and water come to the boil, make sure that your butter's being stirred through and that it's melting evenly. The water and butter and milk are now boiling rapidly. Straight in with the dry ingredients all in one go and very quickly stir them all together. It's really important that we cook out that starch. So just keep stirring it until you feel and you can see it coming together to form a ball. If we add our eggs now, it's going to be far too hot and the heat in the dough is going to cook our eggs. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to remove some of the heat by beating the choux pastry with a spoon. But depending on the strength of the flour that you're using, it will take slightly more or less eggs than the recipe calls for. If you just fill your paste with the back of your hand, you should be able to leave it there without it burning you. But it should still definitely have some warmth. Once you're at that stage, you can gradually add the egg, a little at a time, about half an egg. If you add it too fast, the dough will become lumpy. Don't try to do this with a whisk because the dough is actually quite firm and heavy. That's looking a really good consistency now. You can see that it's going to drop when I slightly shake the spoon, but it's also holding its shape. You're going to need a pastry bag fitted with a quarter of an inch tube. I'm going to show you how to pipe 3 different shapes. So we're going to start with eclairs. So hold the bag slightly away from the tray and let the mix fall onto the tray. This way you'll get a really nice even shape. I'm piping the eclairs on a slant. This is so that the air can circulate around them in the oven and give an even baking throughout. Next, we're going to pipe the religious. This is a combination of 2 different sizes of choux buns. It's very important that you don't pipe the 2 different sizes on the same tray. They'll take a different amount of time to cook, and you don't want to open the oven door during the cooking time. So you pipe the big ones on one tray and the smaller ones on another tray. Hold the bag upright, squeeze gently, stop, give a flick to the right and then lift off. I'm leaving a gap of about 2 inches between the choux buns. This will leave enough space for them to rise and expand. And lastly, we're going to pipe the petit polka. Petit polka is a classic choux chantilly filled ring. Start at the top, come around in an anti-clockwise. Once you get to the start, lift off and give a quick flick to the left. The next thing we need to do is to egg wash the choux pastry. This will give a really nice colour to the finished product. In my egg wash, I have 1 egg yolk and a pinch of salt. The salt will add a really nice colour to the finished egg wash. When the choux paste expands during the oven whilst cooking, the indentations or the lines made by the fork or the star tip will follow that. When the choux expands, it will follow those marks. We don't need to do it for the ring, but we will do it for the buns and the eclairs. So we'll just press down lightly on the top. Make sure that your oven is preset at a very hot temperature. It needs to be at 200 degrees centigrade. This will cause an initial burst of steam as it's released from the choux pastry while it's cooked, and help to push the pastry up and give it that nice hollow centre that we're looking for. Okay, they look ready, so we're just going to check. It's really important that you don't open the oven door during the cooking process. The steam will be released and the choux pastry will collapse. These look perfect. You can see they have a nice golden colour. And just check that they're nice and firm and crisp, which these are, so we can take them out from the oven. We're now going to make the filling for the centre of the eclairs and also the religious. We're going to be making crème pâtissière, or pastry cream. This again is also a basic fundamental of any pastry department. We're going to start by taking the milk and bringing it to the boil. Whilst that's coming to the boil, we're going to take our eggs. I have my eggs and my egg yolks in the bowl. And I'm going to be adding the sugar into there and just giving it a stir around. I'm using a whisk this time because I'm going to need to be blending the ingredients together. I'm also going to add my pre-sieved flour and also my corn flour. And I'm going to bring that together to form a paste. Really give it a good whisk to make sure it's nice and smooth and creamy. You see that? It's really nice and smooth. I'm also going to add my cream into this. And again, just combine together. The milk is now coming to a rapid boil. I'm going to pour that onto our combined ingredients. And whisk again till smooth. We're going to return that to the pan. We're going to go back over to the stove. It's important that you continue to whisk the pastry cream all the time. Do not leave the stove. Do not leave it unattended. It will thicken at the base of the pan first. So keep the whisk moving, and you'll be able to feel it begin to thicken at the base. Keep it moving until you get nice, smooth, creamy, thick pastry cream. Once it's come back to the boil, continue to whisk and continue to boil the pastry cream to cook out the starch. You can just see that it's already thick now. It's come nice and smooth and creamy. So I'm going to keep it boiling, and I'm going to continue to whisk for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, now the pastry cream's ready. It's cooked out beautifully. We're going to add our chocolate. Now, I'm going to add some fèves or some beans. If it's not in this kind of shape, small pieces, make sure that you chop it up so it melts quickly and easily. Whilst your pastry cream is hot, there's enough heat in here to actually melt the chocolate. So just whisk it in until it's nice and smooth and creamy, and all the chocolate will melt into that. Okay, now our choux pastry is out of the oven and ready for us to fill and finish. First of all, we're going to fill the eclairs and the buns. Make sure that you fill them on the bottom. So turn them over with a wooden dowel or something that's big enough to make a hole in the bottom. We're going to make 3 holes, one at each end and one in the middle. This will make sure that the pastry cream goes all the way along. For the buns, we're just going to make a hole in the bottom. For the petit polka, we're going to slice it in half. Make sure that you insert the tip of the bag right into the choux pastry, and you can see that it will start to come out. That's a good indication that it's filled properly. Choux bun, and I'm going to use the rose. I'm using a rose and raspberry pastry cream for the religious. Now we're going to get our fondant ready. Fondant must never reach a temperature more than 37 degrees centigrade. If it goes hotter than this, it's going to lose its shine and become dull and crack easily. So you can either use a bain-marie, or you can do it in a pan if you're very, very careful. So I'm going to place my bain-marie over the water, over the heat, and then sit my pan of fondant over the water. Once you feel it's reached the right temperature and the right consistency, the best way to check for the temperature is to place the fondant on the back of the maurice or spoon and just check it on your bottom lip. At 37 degrees centigrade, there should be some heat, but it should definitely not feel hot, and it should definitely not feel like it has a chill on it. Now I'm going to add the chocolate into the fondant. I'm just going to add enough to colour it and to flavour it. It's really important that you're using a good quality chocolate. I'm using a 70% dark chocolate. It will help with the colour and also the flavour. Once again, we're looking for a consistency that is fluid, but something that's going to stay on the top of the fondant, on top of the eclair. I feel that's a good consistency. We're just going to check it with one of the eclairs. Hold the eclair by the sides. Your finger should not be coming from around it. Dip in and pull out. Keep it facing down into the bowl. Just with your finger, you can lightly take off the surface so it's nice and even. They're looking great. And just to fancy them up a little bit, you can use a little bit of chocolate decoration for the top. This just gives that little creative element to the eclair. That's what pastry is all about. For the religious, you're going to stack one of the choux buns on top of the other. So take the large bun, and again, holding it from the side, dip it into the fondant. Let the excess fondant drain off, keeping it upside down all the time. Bring it up to the top, and then take the smaller choux bun and do exactly the same. And then pop one on top of the other. Finishing is so important in pastry. Everybody eats with their eyes, and it's our time to be creative. It's what gives a basic product such as choux paste all its showmanship. I'm just going to finish those with a crystallized rose petal, and I have a few pieces of freeze-dried simple choux bun into something so pretty and creative, and a little crystallized rose petal on the surface. Okay, we're going to move on lastly to finish the petit polka. I'm going to pipe in the chantilly. Give it a little bit of height so that it stands above the base. Sit on the tops, matching them up from when they came. We're then going to finish with a little bit of icing sugar and some fresh fruit. A little tap. And then I have some fruits here which I'm going to cut to decorate. A good selection of fruits with different colours will help to give the choux pastry its finished prettiness and effect. I have some kiwi, some raspberries, some blueberries, blackberries and mandarin.